Okay, calm down. You're getting nervous, man. You're getting nervous, man. Okay, calm down.
Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We have such an exciting show for you today. We have a show that is really going to bring you some breaking news, breaking analysis, really important perspectives. We're going to be talking during the second half of the show with the great comedian Lee Camp. We'll be talking about Israel, Ben Shapiro, Donald Trump. But during the first half of the show, I'm so excited to be bringing on two guests who are going to be talking to us about a very important story. I'm sure, as everyone knows by now, everyone watching this show, Monday, we had one more Columbia student who is Palestinian who was swept up, detained, abducted on the orders of the Trump administration, perhaps with collaboration of Columbia. We'll get to talking about that shortly. And I'm speaking, of course, of the Palestinian student Mohsen Mahdawi. And so we are really lucky because we have joining us to talk about this story and Mohsen, not only one of the journalists who really is at the forefront of covering groups like the Canary Mission, which do terrible doxing of people. He also focuses a lot on Israel in general, and that is Alex Kane. And he's now a senior reporter at the Canary a senior reporter at Jewish Currents, not at the Canary Mission, although that would be good if he did that. That would be good to go undercover there. And we also have a classmate of Mohsen, Aharon Dardik. And this is a really great thing that we're able to put together because it's pretty cool to be able to speak to someone who knows Mohsen, given how much he's being smeared. So before I bring you their bios and these guests, I want to remind everyone to please like the stream, give it a thumbs up. That's a really easy way to help support the show. If you haven't already, please subscribe by hitting subscribe and then the bell, another really important and easy way to support the show. And if you can afford to, please become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And that gives you access to extended interviews and bonus interviews. And that is how this show functions. We literally could not do the show without your support on Patreon. And again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. So we're going to be bringing in to the stream our first two guests. So excited to be doing that. We're starting off with Alex Kane, who's a senior reporter at Jewish Currents, and he's also reported on the Canary Mission for The Intercept. And we're also bringing onto the show Aharon Dardik, an Israeli-American ex-settler, conscientious objector to the Israeli military and nonviolent activist. He's currently getting his undergraduate degree in both philosophy and political science at Columbia University, where he founded Columbia Jews for Ceasefire in the wake of the Israeli military's response to October 7th. Aharon is a close friend of Mohsen and a partner in their peace efforts, hoping to bridge the Israeli and Palestinian communities together towards a shared future. Their work together has ranged from trying to craft Columbia campus policy changes that would be supported by both the Jewish and Palestinian communities to crafting the framework for an Israeli-Palestinian peace plan designed to meet the needs of all the inhabitants of the land. So without any further ado, welcome Alex and Aharon. Hi. Thank you so much for joining.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So we obviously are going to be talking today about Mohsen, and it's a very chilling story. For people who haven't seen the clip, we'll show the clip of him getting arrested shortly. But I want to know from you, Aharon, what should people know about Mohsen?
I mean, so much. He's really one of the most special people I've ever met. And this is not hyperbole. He is incredibly, incredibly kind and driven and motivated and works day in and day out towards trying to secure a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike. He operates constantly from a firm belief that every single child deserves to be able to grow up in safety, security, liberty, and through a just system. And that is literally how he wakes up and what he does every single day and every moment that he has. Um, he is has like a work ethic that I've never seen from anyone else towards that goal, and he's able to do it because he believes so deeply in going from a world that experiences violent hate in a way that causes so much grief to transforming our world, especially in the Middle East, and especially in Israel and Palestine, to one of experiencing each other through love.
Right. And how did you guys meet each other?
We met initially, we had a meeting at the very beginning of January 2024 during the shopping period for classes. And after we got lunch together, he told me that he really, really appreciated being able to talk to me and getting to know me better. And that even though we'd only really spent an hour together, he really wanted me to join a class that he was taking that semester called Peacemaking and Negotiation. And I already had my class schedule picked out, and the class was full. And I said, Mohsen, I can't do that. And he said, no, 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 this is important. We have to continue to be in dialogue about this together, and you need to take this class with me. And I could tell that he meant it. And so I dropped some other class. I don't even remember what it was at this point. I asked to join the class. I talked to the professor. Mohsen talked to the professor. I got in, and we ended up spending that entire semester together, not just in class, talking about the history of peacemaking initiatives and peacekeeping initiatives through the UN and the various ways that negotiating both civil and international conflicts has resulted in successes and failures, but also meeting together outside of class regularly to talk about how we could apply what we were doing and what we were learning to our own lives and our own histories and our own communities in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And obviously, when you're meeting someone for that much time outside of class, you start to develop a much stronger personal bond as well, and we grew to be very close friends. By the end of the semester, we had the opportunity to write a research paper on a contemporary conflict of our choosing. And both of us chose to write about Israeli-Palestinian conflict and write papers detailing a potential solution based on our conversations that we were having with each other. And once we made that, we kept staying close to each other and working to try and make that a reality. And he has never faltered for a moment since I met him in devoting all of his energies towards reaching that sort of peaceful solution. And for him, so much of that work comes from reaching out to Israelis like me and Israelis who are Zionist and sometimes often struggling with ideas around Palestinian independence and what that would mean for Israelis. And he is incredibly, incredibly patient and very, very loving. And that is sort of the work that he wants to do, reaching out, building bridges, and doing the emotional labor that is necessary to bring people, even people who identify with his oppressors, to a place where they can feel safe and secure and able to advocate for a better future for their children and Palestinian children.
Wow, sounds like a really scary, threatening, hateful guy. And he's a
It's
Buddhist as well,
absurd.
right?
Yes, he's a devout Buddhist. He has a little prayer corner in his apartment where he engages in prayer and meditation. He His shelves are lined with the works of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King. He was the president of the Columbia Buddhist Association for 2 years. One of the first ways that we hung out outside of any sort of I would say, like organizing or political context was that he took me to one of his meditation sessions at Columbia.
Well, what can you guys tell us? This is either for you, Aharon, or Alex, but about what do we know about how he was outed or doxxed, or what was behind his arrest?
I'll let Alex start and then fill in.
Well, I don't think we, as far as I know, we don't know specifically. Actually, I think that's the case for all of these students who have been abducted by ICE. We don't know exactly how the Trump administration is picking their targets, and they've picked a lot so far. I mean, they've revoked the visas of over 600 people by now. And Palestine, in terms of Palestine specific, we know that they've abducted, of course, Mahmoud Khalil was the first one, Rumeysa Ozturk, the Tufts University graduate, Mohsen Mahdawi now, and a number of others who we know. And so we don't know exactly, right? Like it's sort of unclear, although the State Department has a list of all foreign visa holders. And so, I mean, that said, there are thousands of, foreign student visa holders in the United States. So, I think because of that, because of the fact that there's so many people, who are here on student visas, some of whom are engaging in Palestine activism, that, there's been a lot of attention to websites like Canary Mission or groups like Betar USA, who have took it upon themselves to compile lists of activists with their faces, with their, they sort of, identify them at demonstrations. They post, Canary Mission in particular, they don't post their social media profiles, their resumes, and then, people have speculated. Now, again, this is really only speculation. We don't know that the Trump administration is perhaps taking cues or from organizations like Canary Mission. Betar is much more publicly boastful about it. They claim that they shared a list with the Trump administration of people who they claim should be deported because of their activism. Again, we don't know. And the State Department, both the State Department and the Department of Homeland Security both say, when they're asked by reporters, we're not going to confirm or deny how we choose who's arrested. And, in their public filings, they have not indicated whether they're like looking at these lists or they're not looking at these lists. I mean, but I don't think it's hard to imagine that. I mean, the Trump administration officials are online like the rest of us. They have Twitter, X. They have all of these social media accounts, and they can see the same tweets that we see targeting some of these people. In Mohsen's case in particular, we should note that on March 24th, Canary Mission posted a list of about, I think, 8 or 9 foreign nationals, meaning, students who are here on visas who were engaging in pro-Palestine activism. Mohsen was on that list. Betar also had targeted him in tweets. They sort of profiled Mohsen alongside Mahmoud Khalil and Mohammed Ta'al at Cornell, and a number of others who ended up, I think the count by now is 4 of the people that Canary Mission identified on this article, quote unquote, which is titled "Uncovering Foreign Nationals." 4 of them have now been detained by ICE. It's truly chilling and just a full-on assault on the Palestine movement, on free speech, on civil liberties. And so that's what I think we can say that we know. Canary Mission, when asked by the New York Times, they said, we don't communicate with the Trump administration, but all of our lists are public. So yeah, that's what we know at this point.
Right.
Yeah. I'll add to that then that the work from like people who focus on Columbia, including Columbia students and faculty, to call for the deportation of students. Like, I mean, I'm not really going to name names here because I don't think I want to justify that in any way. But there are people who make as part of their way that they interact with the Columbia community, faculty, alumni, and students alike, to identify protesters who are public facing and call for their arrest and deportation. They've been doing this since before Trump got elected, and they continue to do so. And as far as they're concerned, they've been calling for this for months, if not years. And they've been raising the profile of these protesters and calling for violent action to be taken against them, and that this is the result of their particular doxing campaign. Once those things get picked up by places like Canary Mission and Betar. Mohsen was someone who took a lot of risk in trying to reach out and talk to those people. One of the biggest things that he would try and do on campus, as I said, was reach out to Zionists with a different opinion on him. He would reach out to a lot of people who were very, very different in an effort to say, how can we maybe find some sort of middle ground? How can we both ground our actions and experiences in our shared humanity? And these people took that olive branch, turned around and spat in his face, and called for violence against him that has now been committed by the fascist Trump administration. He's not just on a green card, but this is especially risky for him because Mohsen was born in a refugee camp in the West Bank in Palestine and grew up in like dire poverty and watched as his uncle, as his best friend, were killed trying to engage in violent resistance against Israeli occupation. He himself felt moved to help his people and start doing that before deciding that this was not a possible way forward, and the grief that he felt was not something that should be inflicted onto others, but rather something that should be prevented altogether. And with that as his start, right, as a Palestinian national, he has nowhere to be deported to. And so engaging with Zionists and engaging with people who disagree with him, who are in a position of much, much greater power to be able to do something like this, was an incredible risk for him, and one that he just believed was worth taking because he felt that nobody, regardless of their political ideology, regardless of what they have done in the past, was beyond their own humanity. Yeah, and I mean, these same people then turn around and not only dox him, but then also lie about him. I don't remember his name, but people have been trying to say that his cousin, who was killed by the Israeli military last year, who he posted a photo of on his Instagram, is Mohsen, which is not true, obviously, it's his cousin, and that somehow mourning the death of a family member is at all objectionable. I would hope that no matter the combat status, that everyone who is saying that about Mohsen and criticizing him that way would still mourn their family members if they were killed in combat. I think that is a basic level of decency and humanity, right? I mean, like, I have a lot of family who've served in the IDF, and if any of them were hurt, right, it would not matter what they did, I would be mourning and grieving deeply for them. And I believe that that's a common standard that we can all hold to.
Yeah, just a note on that. I mean, so it's sort of a logic of collective punishment of, oh, you have a familial tie to someone who was engaged in armed struggle, therefore you are culpable for their actions, and you can't even mourn them as if they're not human. I mean, I don't think that's a logic that Israelis want, and I don't think it's a logic that anyone should want. I mean, it's an absurd logic of collective punishment to try to punish and target someone for simply mourning their family.
Right. This is so I just have to name this guy. I mean, I don't necessarily want to elevate him, but let's just show who he is. Eyal, I believe his name is Eyal Yakoby. He is this, as you can see him here with his hero, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is wearing a yarmulke there. Eyal Yakoby, here he is with an American flag in the background. He describes himself in his own Twitter bio as 22-year-old UPenn grad, incoming MIT student dedicated to combating anti-Americanism. And what he does is I'm just going to show this. So just so we can see what we're dealing with here. This guy is like, if I were a right-wing Zionist, I would be embarrassed by Eyal because he's such a bad pathological liar. So what he does here is he takes a picture. He goes, breaking, Mohsen Mahdawi, a Columbia student, has just been detained by DHS. Before anyone says that he is being arrested for speech, put speech in quotes, this is his Instagram account. Okay, yes. His Instagram account has a photo of a man who is holding a gun. Lots of people in America who are from America have cousins who hold guns, obviously. But see, what's so disgusting about this is that he's obviously implying that this is Mohsen, right? That's why he's showing an image. It's not of Mohsen. Now, he's either, I think what he's doing, because he's such a sneaky liar, is he's definitely trying to communicate that this is Mohsen and not his cousin. But then technically he can say, oh, I'm not claiming it's Mohsen. It's just that the fact that that's his cousin. But having that as your cousin is not speech, right? Like, does he really think that literally someone's relative makes them deportable? So clearly what he's doing here is he's trying to trick people into thinking that this is a photo of Mohsen. Because, you know, this, I tweeted this earlier today. It's like, this is what these people love to do. They say, oh, this isn't about speech. It's about something else. And then what's their evidence? They go and they show you an example of speech.
And by that logic, you know, Yair Netanyahu, who's living in Miami, should be deported because his father is a war criminal.
Of course, right. Yeah, I would. He should be deported, but that's, you know,
Sure.
so that may not be the best argument. But no, of course, yeah. Most of obviously people like Eyal Yakoby, whatever, would not support that. What's the deal? What's up with men named Eyal, like him, and who's the other one? Eyal. Who's the one that we hate, Brad? Who you made a video of? Eyal Yuval, is it? He's like such a nefarious. He's such a liar. I mean, there's like a weird
Elon Levy.
Oh, wait, is it Elon Levy? Oh, why did I think it was there's another Eyal who's another evil Eyal.
He was like
it's a fairly common Israeli name.
The former PR
right.
guy.
Yeah, it's Elon. Yeah, maybe it's just the names beginning with E. And now I'm really going to get canceled as a self-loathing Jew. But that one, Levy, he's such a bad liar that the Israeli government fired him. Can you imagine that? Like, that usually makes you a really good employee for the Israeli government. But I guess there's only like so much. You have to have there's an art to lying. So anyway, but, you know, I just think that, like you guys are pointing out, the double standard is so incredibly ridiculous. As if like I mean, I'm all for calling for the deportation of any Netanyahu relative. But again, I really highly doubt that people like Eyal are. And he got community noted. I mean, that's how dishonest he is. He's so dishonest. He got community noted. But so what else can you tell us about? Actually, before we move on, I just want to show a quick clip of Mohsen so people can get a sense of who he is. Here he is being interviewed actually on 60 Minutes, and he's being asked about anti-Semitic speech. And the interviewer on 60 Minutes makes it clear that he's not talking about anti-Israel speech. He's talking about anti-Jew speech and referring to something that happened near Columbia. So let's take a look at this clip.
Which is what anti-Semitic means.
Right. I know. Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Like it just, I mean, basically that journalist is kind of giving away the game, right? He's like, no, I don't mean, when I say anti-Semitism, I mean real anti-Semitism. I don't mean it in the way that the rest of the media and political elites use it, which is when they're just describing anti-Zionism. Yeah. So let's take a look.
Although anyone, when pressed on it, will immediately fall back and say, of course, not all anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
Yes. But then they never give an example. of acceptable anti-Zionism. Like, of course we can criticize Israel, but they never give an example of criticizing Israel that's okay, and they never do it themselves. So let's take a look.
Exactly.
The night of the rally, I believe someone in the crowd said something very anti-Jewish, not just anti-Israeli, but anti-Jewish.
Yes, this was as a walkout on November 9th. And a person who is not affiliated with Columbia, we've never seen him, we don't know who is this guy, comes down the stairs yelling, "Death to Jews." I was shocked, and I walked directly to the person and I told him, "You don't represent us because this is not something that we agree with." And directly what I've done, I took the megaphone and I gave a speech and I said, "We here are conscious, educated students, and we know how to separate right from wrong. And what this guy has said is wrong. What this guy has said is clearly anti-Semitic against Jews.
Anti-Semitic.
To be anti-Semitic is unjust. And the fight for the freedom of Palestine and the fight against anti-Semitism go hand in hand, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."
Sounds like such a Jew hater. Definitely someone who does not keep Jews safe in this world. And, you know, I want to ask both of you if you could talk about this, because there have been hearings on Jewish safety, right? There's what's being done right now is being done allegedly, of course, in the name of Jewish safety. Want to ask you, Alex, as a journalist who covers this, and you, Aharon, as a Jewish student at Columbia, what kind of danger do you face as a Jewish student at Columbia? Or do you not? I mean, a bit of a leading question, but how unsafe do you feel at the encampments?
I mean, I was present at the encampments. Like, many Jews were. If you look at Jews as a representative of population at Columbia versus at the encampments, Jews are overrepresented. There's a very strong Jewish force there, and in the protest movements in general, Jews are overrepresented. I think it makes sense. It's an issue that very closely ties to Jewish issues and Jewish history, right? I would say that Zionism is not a part of Judaism as a religion, but it is most certainly part of Jewish history. And that is something that obviously every Jew has some connection to that at some point. And what we saw on our campus was the move not of safety to lack of safety, but of someone's Zionism, whether they were Jewish or Christian or otherwise, moving from a position that was not controversial to one that was controversial. That Zionism was being treated the same way that being pro-life on campus was being treated, or the way that, like, saying all lives matter or like thin blue line was being treated, because Zionism is Jewish nationalism, and nationalism is sort of a conservative movement. And so it was being treated like a conservative political opinion. And at a time that conservative political opinion was actively being used and being demonstrated to be sort of the fueling ideology of a genocide happening in Gaza, that was something that was treated as unacceptable in many circles. Not all circles. There are still very large institutions at Columbia, like the Hillel, which is a home for all Zionist students. They claim to be a home for all Jewish and Israeli students, although they are explicitly Zionist. And many Jewish students on campus say that they do not feel comfortable with that. But like, what happened was that Zionism as a political position started being treated as one that was, well, not cool. And many people decided to take that shift and run the narrative instead that they were unsafe. If you look at what happened, there was basically no violence that happened at all from the protesters from October 7th until today. And so, like, factually, statistically, if you look at what happened, everyone has been safe on the Jewish side. Conversely,
on the Zionist
on the
Jewish
Zionist
side, right?
side as well. Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, non-Zionist and anti-Zionist Jews are also very safe on campus. So if
right.
you're talking about Jewish safety on campus, everyone there is safe.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you talk about Palestinian safety on campus, you've seen not only these public doxing campaigns, but I mean, Mohsen and Mahmoud have been abducted by ICE agents of the fascist administration, and like there are attempts to deport them by the president of the United States as a result of the Zionist response to these peaceful protests.
Right. Yeah, and
to these protests that are not threatening the safety of Jews. And while there's been so much talk in the media about Jewish safety on Columbia's campus, far less has been paid to Palestinian safety that is actually severely under threat.
Right. Yeah, like in terms of deportation, also physical violence. And of course, the only Jewish students who I've seen punished or physically hurt, like grabbed and thrown, are the ones who are protesting for Palestine. And the only, violence committed by protesters that I've seen is the violence committed by Israel supporters. Those are the ones that spit at people, call people racial slurs, like impersonate monkeys in response to a Black woman. But you'd really never know that from the media's representation of it. And Alex,
if you want to talk about violent incidents on campus as a result of tensions around the conflict, at the Columbia School of General Studies Gala last year, which is sort of the biggest event for my school, at the very end of the event, Israeli students not only use saying Hatikva and use slurs to call Palestinians and Arab students like all sorts of horrible names. They then also went on to go beat them, and students were kicked and punched on the floor. And the university tried to cover it up, which we found out recently was confirmed in the latest reporting from the Sundial report, that the university has received time and time again, including from Mohsen, the concerns that Palestinian students and Arab students have had around their safety being threatened, and actual incidents of violence and intimidation. The university has taken these complaints, at best has done nothing, and at worst has used that information to further target students.
Right. Yeah. 6Pro, just reading a Columbia Spectator article. Actually, let me just show this. And of course, there's the chemical weapon spray that happened. And we've had on students who were exposed to that. Okay, let's see. So yeah, 6Pro Palestinian students report harassment, assault at General Studies Gala. Students reported being kicked, punched, and called terrorists and receiving other harassing comments. The students said they wore keffiyehs to the gala, hosted by the General Studies Student Council to show solidarity with Gaza, and with the 108 individuals who were arrested at the Gaza Solidarity Encampment on April 18th, and 18 and other suspended students who had attended pro-Palestinian events and protests. Right. And we also know that, of course, people were sprayed with a chemical. They were hospitalized, and the people responsible for that actually sued Columbia and won hundreds of thousands of dollars. Alex, what can you tell us about these events? And also going back to your article on the Canary Mission, what you learned about who's funding the Canary Mission?
So yeah, just a quick comment about what Aharon and you laid out really well. I mean, I would say there's a manufactured crisis of anti-Semitism. There is no actual crisis of anti-Semitism in the United States. That's not to say that there are not individual incidents that are clearly anti-Semitic. Even at Columbia, there was the video of someone. Again, I'm not sure who it was. I'm not sure if they were affiliated with any organization. I know that they were outside of the Columbia gates and they were filmed telling Israeli students to go back to Poland. I would say that's anti-Semitic, and that's wrong. And there are also reports of Jewish students, having Stars of David ripped off. What I would say about that is that these are isolated incidents that obviously should be condemned. But there's no systemic crisis of anti-Semitism that the Trump administration is claiming. Instead, what there is a manufactured crisis of anti-Semitism that rests on the conflation of criticism of a state engaging in genocide, that is Israel, with an attack on Jewish identity, which, of course, sort of an aside, is very dangerous when you're conflating Jewish identity with a state that is committing genocide. Katie, of course, you've talked about this a lot. So, there's no crisis of anti-Semitism. There is a surging pro-Palestine movement that is now fodder is now a target of the Trump administration's crackdown on dissent. And of course, that crackdown was certainly paved by the Biden administration, who also laid the narrative groundwork, the discursive groundwork to conflate the campus protest movement with anti-Semitism. As for Canary Mission, so I think many of your viewers may know, the basics of Canary Mission, that they began in 2015, obviously in reaction to the growing student movement. Right, the encampments were not the first time that SJPs were organizing around the country. Students for Justice in Palestine has been around in this iteration since 2000, around the Second Intifada, and has grown in strength ever since, particularly growing in relevance and size in reaction to successive Israeli assaults on Gaza. So in 2015, Canary Mission became this sort of clandestine, shadowy response to this movement, and they created a blacklist of students and some professors who they claim are anti-Semitic, pro-terrorism. Much of the evidence of this, if you look at the specific profiles of Canary Mission, is basically they were a member of SJP, and SJP says, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." That's an anti-Semitic call because it's calling for the genocide of Israeli Jews. That's the logic of Canary Mission, and they, for a while, nobody really knew who exactly was behind them. The sort of veil of secrecy began to be lifted first by an excellent reporter who used to be at The Forward, Josh Nathan Cases, who first uncovered some who's behind Canary Mission and some of the early funders. So Josh, exposed the name of the person who runs Canary Mission. His name is Jonathan Bash. He's a British Israeli who used to work for Aish HaTorah, which is a sort of Orthodox Jewish movement, a global Orthodox Jewish movement that also has right-wing Israel politics. But their central reason for being is not necessarily pure. It's not just a Zionist organization. It's a Jewish communal organization that is promoting Orthodox Judaism. But Josh uncovered a lot of people behind Canary Mission who had ties to Aish HaTorah, and then also discovered that some mainstream American Jewish foundations were funding Canary Mission. The first foundation was the Helen Diller Foundation in San Francisco. The second was the Los Angeles Community Jewish Foundation, who sent $250,000 to Canary Mission from an anonymous donor. I picked up on that reporting first in 2021, when I discovered on a tax form that a Jewish philanthropist named Michael Levin had donated $50,000 to Canary Mission, specifically for, on the tax form, it said JVP campaign work, JVP being Jewish Voice for Peace. The year that he donated to them, Canary Mission had a whole report on Jewish Voice for Peace, labeling them anti-Semitic and pro-terrorist. The latest on Levin is I interviewed him in 2021 for an article I did in Jewish Currents, and he told me, yeah, I donated to Canary Mission because I thought they told me that they were going to combat anti-Semitism, and so I thought it was really important to fund them. And now no longer I'm not going to fund them anymore because I found that they weren't effective. He told me that in 2021. And there no more donations to Canary Mission showed up on his tax form. The New York Times recently interviewed him for a piece that they did on Canary Mission, and he told them that in fact he's now resuming his donations. I tried to reach out to Levin to understand more. He unfortunately didn't get back to me. I wanted to understand what changed. Why was he now funding Canary Mission again after saying that he didn't think it was effective? So so that now I found a new donation from Canary Mission from a family foundation called the Robert Froman Family Foundation. Robert Froman is a corporate lawyer who is also a board member of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, which is one of the most prominent pro-Israel think tanks in the country. Their employees have gone on to shape Middle East policy under numerous presidential administrations. So I thought it was pretty striking that someone who is at the heart of the pro-Israel establishment was also funding Canary Mission. And I tried to contact the Fromers. They did not get back to me to explain why they were funding Canary Mission. But on top of that, Eli Clifton for The Intercept also exposed another recent donation. This is the Natan and Lydia Pesach Family Foundation, which gave $100,000 to Canary Mission in 2023. And Eli's story was all about how the Pesach family was heavily tied to University of Pennsylvania, and Canary Mission was attacking the University of Pennsylvania in the aftermath of October 7th, when there was a surge in anti-genocide student activism. And so Eli's headline was, University family of University of Pennsylvania trustee is funding Canary Mission at the same time that they're attacking University of Pennsylvania students. So that is, that's sort of what we know right now about who is funding Canary Mission. Like they are not a nonprofit in the United States, so they don't file tax forms themselves. What we do know is limited because of that, and their Israeli, the Israeli organization that runs them, which is called Megamat Shalom, which means peace trends in Hebrew, does file tax forms in Israel, but they don't disclose. They don't have to disclose their donors, and so they don't. So what we do know is the American Jewish donors who have disclosed that they're funding Canary Mission on their tax forms. We may know when more tax forms come out for fiscal year 2024. I'm obviously going to be paying very close attention to that. So basically, the sort of, just to sum up, the picture is that there are a number of American Jewish family foundations and American Jewish communal institutions that are funding Canary Mission. And Canary Mission's intent, of course, explicitly is to make sure not only now that people are punished for their activism or made unemployable. That's sort of one of the main reason why they started, is to prevent, quote unquote, today's radicals from becoming tomorrow's employees. Now there's the dangerous element of the Trump administration using their profiles to deport people. And we also know that Canary Mission has been utilized by Israeli border agents to deny Palestinians entry to Palestine, given that Israel controls all exit and entry into Israel-Palestine, and they've interrogated people on the basis of their Canary Mission profile. I've also reported for The Intercept that the FBI, in interviews with student activists, have referenced their Canary Mission profiles as well. So there's a lot of things we don't know about Canary Mission, but the things that we do know are quite striking and obviously troubling, to say the least.
Right. Alarming. Yeah. Another organization, another group that does doxing, there's Betar. And maybe I'll talk about that in the second half of the show, because I have some kind of funny examples of people that they're trying to get banned from Israel, including Tony Judd, who died in 2010, and Adrian Rich, who died in 2012. But I do know it's incredibly late where you are right now, Aharon. So I just want to ask you two more things, if that's okay, right? So one is, let's take a look at this. What are stop Jew hatred? What are they? I can never. What is it? What are they called? This is the thing that I sent you this tweet, right, Brad? The one where they mentioned. Oh, here we are. Okay.
Documenting Jew hatred on
All right.
campus.
Yeah, documenting Jew hatred on campus. Okay. Because they call it Campus Jew Hate is their handle, so I always get confused. Okay. Documenting Jew hatred on campus at Columbia. So this is actually from the other day. I was at this protest. This was one where you were protesting in solidarity with Mahmoud Khalil. And then Mariam Alwan, who we'd had on our show, was there protesting in solidarity with you guys. A bunch of you guys had, Jewish students had chained themselves to a gate. So we have identified the original 4 students who chained their hands to the gates near the chapel earlier today. Their names are Aharon Dardik, and then they name your majors. They tell what the different things that people do. Oh, and then Shay is very involved in trans rights activism. That's also, very, I guess, incriminating. And if you scroll down, they show their
I will say also, just don't nothing that they're saying here is founded on anything besides that they were able to find our face. They're don't know who we are and didn't do good research.
Right.
My favorite part though is this last paragraph here.
Okay. You want to read it or you want me to?
Sure. It says, lastly, we do think it's noteworthy in a positive way that these students did not hide their faces. We think it is commendable the way that they own their activism. We also think of all Columbia JVP initiatives, at least this one was not intentionally disruptive to classes or interfered with student movement on campus at Canary Mission. So after saying, thank you so much for doing this in the proper way, we really appreciated this. Also, we are still doxing you. Thank you for making it easier.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And they tagged Canary Mission, Claire Shipman, Katrina Armstrong, who at that point I think was still the president, right? Stefanik, of course.
No, it was Claire Shipman still. They just are lazy.
Oh, okay. Claire Shipman, right. Rep Stefanik and Richie Torres, friend of show Richie Torres. But what can you tell us about about that organization? Documenting.
I mean, it's really run by one guy. He's comfortable naming me, so I'm comfortable naming him Victor Muslin. He's a grad from SEPA from the 80s at Columbia. He went to grad school at Columbia and just has this this obsessive fixation on our campus protests and trying to ruin the lives of everyone he can, which is mostly Palestinians, because while I can get a couple of hateful DMs as an American citizen and a Jew, I have so much more privilege. But he has worked together with individual Columbia students who are vocal parts of the pro-Israel movement on campus. And I mean, I'll leave it to Alex to say the rest, but just, kind of a huge coward.
I was just going to say that, to connect it back to Canary Mission, Canary Mission was a sort of pioneer in this kind of online, social media heavy and online first, lists of people. I mean, there were precedents, the Middle East Forum, which was an outfit run by the neoconservative anti-Muslim activist and academic Daniel Pipes in 2002 during the Second Intifada, did had a list online of professors who were engaging in sort of anti-American hatred or anti-Semitism. But this was 2002. This was not, there was no social media at that point. It just existed online. And so the Canary Mission really was the first to utilize social media to dox and publicly profile basically random student activists. And again, I mean, the people that they profile they're not professionals, and many of them just kind of join an SJP and then show up in an event, which could be a bake sale, and then the next week they're on Canary Mission. This is their sort of slimy tactics that they use to try to deter people and intimidate. Although, and despite that, of course, we do have a very kind of strong pro-Palestine movement. So on the one hand, there is this apparatus for repression. On the other hand, a lot of people aren't deterred. So I mean, those two things are sort of coexisting. But the thing I wanted to say is, like, documenting Jew hatred, there's like a couple of them around the country. There's like documenting Jew hatred at the University of Rochester. There's all these kind of local outfits that are basically copying Canary Mission and their tactics. And so I just wanted to say that, like, Canary Mission was the first, and now we have, dozens, if not more, outfits that are really just trying to use these same tactics to intimidate people. Again, it's very troubling and alarming that this is the level of discourse that folks are engaging in. It's not about debate. It's not about even persuasion or public opinion. It's really about trying to punish people, and that's just totally antithetical to a democratic society. And unfortunately, they're gaining traction now, but they absolutely should be opposed.
Yeah. And come out of if they want to dox people, why don't they, tell the world who they are? It's totally asymmetrical warfare.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, if you go on Canary Mission's website, there's literally nothing.
Right.
There's no staff. Powers. There's no 990 forms. There's no, nobody knows other than what reporters have done to show who's behind them. Nobody, they don't tell you. They're not transparent.
Right. Because they know it's so reprehensible what they do or unseemly, perhaps. My words. Yeah. Not yours. Yeah. Well, Alex, I know you have some household duties to attend to, so I will let you go. And Aharon, but thank you so much. And everyone check out Alex's great work at Jewish Currents. Aharon, one more question for you. Is that okay? Because I know it's really late where you are.
Go for it.
You just have like a fascinating journey, story. I mean, you were born in the United States, then you wound up in the West Bank. Now you're back in the States. Your politics have changed. You've spent time in jail. Can you tell us how you evolved politically and personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people who are in, I would say, more traditional Jewish environments in the United States get this story, this sort of like AIPAC-approved story about what Israel is and what that means for Jews. And when my family moved to the West Bank, a lot of the pieces of that the existence of Palestinians was this sort of like problem that Jews wish in their peaceful and loving ways that they could come to an agreement, but the Palestinians don't want that. They only want violence. And that these are pieces that in the rhetoric of the settlement started to fall away. And like, as a child was repeating them, other settlers were telling me like, no, you don't need to say that here. Like, and much more extreme language is used. My settlement is, as a settlement goes, one of the more moderate ones. And still, like, over half of the people here in the past election voted for the Ben Gvir and Smotrich slate. So getting those people into power. And that, like, was something that, like, was very, I would say, like, discordant for me. And as I learned more about the history of the conflict, I was constantly trying to approach it from, well, while this is incredibly scary for me as a Jew, now Israeli, it's much worse for the Palestinians involved. So I was trying to understand always, what is it that makes it so this is something that they would want to engage in? Why wouldn't they take any of these outs that the Hasbara narrative, the official Israeli narrative, was saying that we were allegedly giving them? And the more I learned about the actual realities of the conflict, the more I saw that Palestinians are not given any out. This violent resistance is not working and does not work. Nonviolent resistance does not work. Protests do not work. Riots do not work. Nothing works. And Palestinians are left, and from my understanding, basically, that no matter what they do, they are greeted with violence. And as a result, a lot of them say, well, if I'm going to lose anyway, I'm at least going to make you lose as well. And it was a hard thing to recognize. For me, it really crystallized during the March return in Gaza when Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, where a nonviolent protest was met in many cases with live ammunition, and in many cases with like other tactics that led to the death of Palestinian protesters. And with over 100 Palestinians dead, nothing else changed, and the Israeli narrative never recognized the like groundbreaking nature of the nonviolent protest, the biggest since the first Intifada. And then I realized I didn't want to serve. I was drafted anyway, mandatory conscription. And after going through basic training and specialized training in the Air Force, I was deployed to a base, the closest Israeli air base to Gaza, and told that as soon as I finished up my training, that I would be involved in the sort of combat support for the Air Force, and specifically that I was going to be on munitions and explosives support for the F-16 fighter jets that are used to bomb Gaza. I was doing my best at that point to be sort of like disruptive and not get to that point where I would be involved. I was deliberately failing my tests to sort of pass into being a full soldier. But after some escalating tensions in 2021, the Sheikh Jarrah protests and the lead up to what would become the 2021 Israel-Gaza war, known there as Operation Guardian of the Walls, a preliminary airstrike was called, and my commander said, all right, well, now is sort of an emergency, it's wartime. We're going to pretend as if you passed the test because you're good to go. Now load the bombs onto the plane so that we can drop them on our Gazan targets. And at that point, I realized that there was nowhere else that I could go, nowhere that I could try and compromise and reconcile in a way where what I was doing would not be in direct conflict with my values for human life, my values of opposing violence, of understanding that it's not a viable solution for solving any sort of conflict, definitely not one where it is a sort of an ethnic and national insurgency movement for their own freedom. And I conscientiously objected to service in the Israeli military, which started a 4-month process of Israeli military prison as I fought to be recognized as a conscientious objector, which would mean that under international law I would be exempt to serve, except that in Israel, you are guilty until proven innocent of lying about being a conscientious objector. So I had to sit out my time in military prison while making my case. But that was really a moment where I realized that beliefs are not things that one can have just internally, and that there's nothing that about believing something in your heart that makes you any better of a person or can lead to any change, and that actions and going out there and doing something and standing up for your values, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if it puts you in a place where things are more difficult, is what actually makes change. And that there are a lot of people who sit at home and love feeling like they know the best about themselves, but they don't go out there and actually advocate for those changes. And at that point, I realized this is something that I have to be doing. And so after I was recognized as a conscientious objector and discharged from military prison and military service, I started doing activism on the Israeli left and fighting for the freedom of Palestinians and justice for the occupation and apartheid. And then at Columbia, I continued that work After October 7th, I found juice for ceasefire and continued to fight for a vision that I and Mohsen share in common, which is a free and equal land for all Israelis and Palestinians. And that's something that I think is very simple and has somehow made people like me and Mohsen have a lot of people who wish a lot of ill upon us, because there are people who want to stop equal rights from happening. That's always happened. People who oppose civil rights in the United States, and it's always been the case. And then a lot of other people who are inspired through fear, primarily, to follow those who hate. And part of how I think we will have success as a movement is the ability to both stand our ground and be strong in saying, absolutely, there is no way that I'm compromising on my values of justice, of peace, of security, and of freedom. And at the same time, there is nothing for you to be afraid of. That this is a future that is not just good for Palestinians, but good for Israelis as well. That oppression and apartheid are sicknesses that affect far more so the oppressed, but also harm the oppressor. And that a liberated future, whether it was in the American South, in South Africa, or in Israel-Palestine, is a future that is better for everyone. And that is a message that is now more diminished with Mohsen detained. And I hope he comes back soon, because it's a message that I think a lot of people need to hear.
Wow, thank you so much. I just want to contrast what you said with the footage of Mohsen getting arrested, just because I think it's really important for people to see this. So just yet another example of people being rounded up without due process, thrown into vehicles, and So any final words you want to share? I mean, you already said really moving words, but
I think just don't stop fighting. That every single inch that we lose is one that we could have kept if enough people were fighting for it, and there are enough people who agree with us that if everyone did fight for it, fascism would make no progress and would be reversed instantly. And that they try and use fear to control us, to keep us inside, and to tell us that there's nothing we can do to make this better, but it's a lie. And that Mohsen fought day in and day out to try and embolden people to feel that and understand that the power was in fact with them, and that this can be changed, and that every single step we take, as we are now not closer to fascism, but in fascism, every single step we take further down that road, intensifying that, is one that can be reversed and at the very least will be slowed down for you trying. And so do not let yourself be governed by fascist law. We have, even in a time where it's often very, very difficult and hurtful and hateful, a great society in the United States of America, and one that is able to fight back if it is willing.
Thank you so much, Aharon. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thanks for everything you do and you've done, and your courage.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And come back, because I want to hear more about your story. It's really fascinating.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was really, wow. I'm so impressed. Like, to come to those ideas not being raised with them is just really impressive and moving. I certainly didn't, but the next guest I think maybe did a little bit. And so on that note, everyone give this a like, give this a thumbs up, subscribe if you don't already. And we're going to bring on our next guest, and that is Lee Camp, who is a very funny man, a political comedian, and the host of the former host of Redacted Tonight and the current host of Unredacted Tonight. Welcome, Lee. Hi, Lee.
Hello. Hey, Katie. That was a very profound guess. I prefer that before me you have like vapid kind of
I know. I really set you up.
misinformed guess, because then I can look better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll play. Well, we could just go. I mean, we have some options. Don't worry. Maybe not now, but don't worry, guys. Very shortly, we'll see someone who will make Lee look, I mean, even better than he already looks, if you can believe it. But yeah, I mean, there's so much we could talk about. I guess let's just start off. What are your reactions to what we're seeing right now? What we were just talking about in that last segment?
Yeah, no, it's horrific. It is straight up fascism, and we've people would like to not like to think, but some people like to say that this is new in America's history. But of course, America has a long history of this, taking those who speak out against the U.S. empire, and I'm including Israel in the U.S. empire, and rounding them up, arresting them, especially if they're from other countries initially, even if they're legal citizens. You go back to the Palmer raids, you go back to people being arrested during World War I for simply saying opposed to the war, Eugene Debs. The U.S. has a history of this, and it's ramping up now, but it's certainly not new to this experience, the experiment of the U.S. empire. And yeah, it is amazing. Let's not forget that what all these people are guilty of is standing up against genocide. Like, at the heart of it, that's what it is. And they'll try and muddy the waters. They'll try and say this happened or that happened, or they said this or that, but it's all because they're standing up against genocide. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah, it's really fun to watch these people pretend to, like, defenders of these deportations and arrests, pretend that there's some legal reason. They never know what they're talking about. And then like the Trump administration basically admits it's not about crimes anyway. I mean, they say that, right?
Marco Rubio said outright that that he's not done with Mahmoud Khalil. He's not done anything illegal. And they said in one of their memos that it's for beliefs or expected beliefs. So not just thought crimes, but what we think your thought crimes might be later.
Yeah. Like future, like tarot reading thought crimes, clairvoyancy thought crimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was about Mahmoud Khalil. He's like, he was a negotiator. That's crime. That's a crime enough. It's like, wait, being a negotiator who was approved by Columbia University. All right, fine. Yeah.
Yeah. It's garbage. And these are disgusting human beings. And they try and make us live in an inverted moral universe where up is down and genocide is right.
Right. All right. Well, someone who professes to love free speech, and someone who I know that you really appreciate very much because you've made videos about him, is the great Ben Shapiro. So I wanted to take a look at a recent video that he released, and maybe you could, respond to it. And, you know, if you want me to pause it, just put your hand up and I can pause it. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Important things being done by the Trump administration. Yes, we should be deporting Hamasniks. I don't even know why this is controversial. If you are a supporter of Hamas here on a visa, here on a green card, you should go. We don't need more of you. I'm confused as to why this is even an issue. Again, we're not talking about American citizens who are participating in speech we don't like. We are talking about people who are here as guests of the United States or trying to earn their way into citizenship. This notion that they magically ought to be treated exactly the same as natural-born American citizens or people who have already earned their citizenship is like, if that's the case, then why do we even have immigration standards at all? Maybe we just shouldn't. Maybe being a terror supporter should just not be on your immigration application. This is all absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it's he has to phrase it. He has to couch the whole thing in they are Hamas supporters or they are terror supporters. Because if he were to say the truth, they're speaking out against a genocide, it's the game's over. So
Right.
you have to completely from the beginning, change what it is that
Right.
these people are fighting against.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And they never provide any proof of that. Even though, you know, the irony is like you can actually, legally speaking, be a Hamas supporter. What you can't do is like provide material support for them. I mean, when I say you can, legally speaking, I mean under First Amendment laws. And, you know, people here on green cards are entitled to, are protected by their First Amendment. Something that, yeah, there you go. Yes, the Bill of Rights and by extension, the U.S. Constitution protects immigrants regardless of their immigration status. This means that even undocumented immigrants have constitutional rights, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, due process, and equal protection under the law. Yeah, it's like, I encourage people, by the way, to watch the live stream that we did last night. I co-hosted it with Najla Saeed, the actor and writer and the daughter of Edward Saeed. And it was a special Liberation Seder stream. But I spoke to one of Mahmoud Khalil's lawyers. I spoke to also Joe Howley, who was a Columbia professor. Definitely check those out. But what I mentioned with what Mahmoud Khalil's lawyer mentioned is that this idea, you know, First Amendment protections for undocumented people, it's not just settled law. I was like, it's settled law. She's like, yeah, it's not just settled law, it's foundational law. You know, it's part of our Constitution. So that's ironic that they're getting the law wrong. But then, right, as you said, literally, like, there's no evidence of anything that they're making claims of. This guy we talked about earlier on the show, I don't know, Eyal Yakoby or something. He's such a meathead. He's so dumb. But he had like, he was like, don't be gaslit when people say that Mahmoud isn't a terrorist. Here's the proof. And literally the proof are just like videos and photos of him in a building in Columbia. Like, it's not even being taken over. He's just there at Columbia. Like, that's it. And like the Canary Mission, one of their pieces of evidence against Mohsen was that he went to Birzeit University to study computers. And there are people who support terrorism at that university. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, that's literally what they said. But
yeah, they have to do guilty by association or that kind of bullshit because they don't have anything. They don't have any breaking of laws. They don't have any assault charges. It's there's nothing there. So they have to do, well, you know, he once spoke to so and so.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Should we go back to the video?
Sure.
Marco Rubio had the best response to this yesterday. Secretary of State Rubio has invoked his power as the Secretary of State to say that this guy is a foreign policy threat, which he's a member of a group that actively called for armed uprising against Western civilization. Here is Secretary of State Rubio yesterday.
When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, as on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student, and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would.
How was he? Okay, go. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, what if you
Actually,
support the genocidal terrorist state of Israel? Is that okay? Can you get a visa if you support?
Oh yeah, they probably expedite it, and they pay for your plane
endless
over. Yeah.
bombing of babies in hospitals and schools. If
Right.
you're a big fan of that and you're running around with a flag endorsing that, that's okay. You get a visa, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's also so stupid because I guess these evil, terror supporters, they also have like magical powers. So so Mahmoud was supposed to predict October 7th and then say, I'm going to be doing XYZ in response to that. I mean, it's not like he's not doing anything remotely anti-Semitic anyway, obviously, but it's just like so ridiculous. The premise of this is that he lied about what he would be doing in the future.
Well, I'll tell you who did predict October 7th was Israel knew all about it. Even New York Times, even the New York Times has covered the fact that Israel knew a year in advance exactly what was going to happen. But yeah, and they were warned by U.S. intelligence, and they were warned by Egyptian intelligence, and they were warned by the IDF, and they were warned by the IDF spotters. So yeah, but no, it's all like, to me, this shows how weak the U.S. empire is, how weak Israel is. Because I feel like at first the goal was with protests is generally ignore them and hope they'll go away. But they've kind of realized that Israel has no standing. The people that believe Israel's propaganda has become a dwindling number. And so they've got to crush dissent. They can't just ignore it anymore. The propaganda is not working anymore. The garbage being spit out by our mainstream media isn't working anymore. And so it actually shows their hand in terms of how weak they are.
Right. Well, let's watch a little bit more, just because it's like, because you took this video down yourself, so it's helpful, I think, for you to bring this to the people here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out.
This seems inarguable, and yet Democrats are somehow finding a way to argue with all of this. The lawyer for Mahmoud Khalil read a letter from Mahmoud Khalil's wife yesterday, suggesting he had been kidnapped. Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony of a man who cheers for actual kidnappings by a terrorist group claiming he has been kidnapped because the legal process is now kicking him out of the country for being a supporter of that terror group.
Can I just say, people, I put up a video mocking Ben Shapiro. People pointed out he's looking more and more like Hitler. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's something creepy going on there. I mean,
something even creepier than what's already going on. Yeah.
Maybe beliefs start to manifest themselves in your face or something. And then he says, the irony of kidnapping or whatever. Of course, and this goes with every mention of hostages. You never mention that Israel is kidnapping people every single day. They had 5,000 hostages in their prison, Palestinian hostages, before October 7th, and now it's over 10,000. But of course, those don't count as hostages. Those are legitimate prisoners somehow, even though many are children and women and innocent people. And yeah,
right. It's like what every accusation is a confession, right?
Yeah.
Like we said, yeah. When it comes to this, when it comes to the rape, all of that. Yeah. Also, again, it's like the problem with these people is that there's so much to debunk that you almost lose track, right? So first of all, he's lying about the kidnappings, right? And he's lying. He doesn't, the double standards are so glaring. But again, there are people who defend Hamas, and like Mahmoud Khalil happens to be someone who doesn't. Like, the irony is that Mohsen and Mahmoud Khalil are people who, talk a lot about like how there's collective liberation. Both of them have spoken about how Jewish liberation and Palestinian liberation go hand in hand. Both of them have condemned anti-Semitism. And yet we're supposed to believe that these people are regardless of your thoughts on Hamas, like they just aren't very they're not cheerleaders for Hamas.
Well, I think what you're speaking to is those are the most dangerous type of protesters, are those who talk about uniting and are not saying we need to hate a certain people. And you know, that is why the U.S. government assassinated Fred Hampton, is not just because he was a powerful Black Panther. It's because he was speaking about uniting other groups, and he was speaking with white groups. And, you know, at the moment when they ultimately took out MLK was when he started increasingly talking about the Poor People's March and getting together all groups of people who were being exploited in our system, as opposed to just civil rights. So that's the most threatening ones, Katie, are the ones that are not telling one group to hate another, but instead are saying unite.
Are not like doctrinaire, dogmatic, or I mean, there's a rule for everyone, but yes, the people who are in many ways the most threatening are the ones who are the most uniting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep. Oops, sorry.
My husband was kidnapped from our home.
Oh, this is amazing. Okay, can you back up a little bit, Brad, so people can get the context from this?
Yeah, because the legal process is now kicking him out of the country for being a supporter of that terror group.
My husband was kidnapped from our home, and it's shameful that the United States government continues to hold him because he stood for the rights and lives of his people. I demand his immediate release and return to our family. His disappearance has devastated our lives. Every day without him is filled with uncertainty, not just for me, but for our entire family and community.
So I want to give Ben credit there, because unlike other people, and I think this may have been Eyal. Nate, can you look up if it was Eyal Yakoby? People are going to think I have a crush on this guy, but someone did put up that video and pretended that his lawyer, who was reading the letter on behalf of his wife, pretended that she was pretending to be his wife. Did you see this?
No.
Because she's like, my husband was arrested. They're like, that's not what his wife looks like. Look at these liars. These, like, you know, anti-Semitic liars. His wife doesn't look like that. Okay, let's go back to the video.
The family of Eyal Alexander, the American citizen being held in Gaza by Hamas, would like to have a word. I've yet to see the Democrats tweeting out free Eyal Alexander, an actual American citizen being held by an actual honest-to-God terror group, kidnapped into Gaza. And yet here we have this lawyer for the wife reading a letter in which she claims that he was kidnapped. Nope, that's called the legal process taking place.
Do you know how long
right
it would
now,
take
Khalil is being...
If he were to start reading the names of all the Palestinians held hostage by Israel right now,
right,
it'd be doing it for the next 6 days straight.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. And you know, if you want to talk about Eyal, if you want to talk about that particular hostage, there's actually a post by Drop News. Hold on one second. Drop Site News about Eyal Alexander. Hold on, let me just show this. Brad, did I give this to you? If not, I'm going to text it to you now. Sorry, one second. I just want to show this. Or I can, do you have it, Brad, or do you want me to just do a screen share? No. That's important, but that's not what I meant to send to you. Sorry, it's B02. It's the clip, it's B02. Okay, so this is from Dropsite News. Breaking. Al-Qassam says it has lost contact with unit guarding American-Israeli prisoner Eyal Alexander after Israeli strike. Abu Abaida, the spokesman for Hamas's armed wing Al-Qassam brigades, announced on the group's official telegram that it has, quote, lost contact with the unit holding the soldier Eyal Alexander after direct Israeli strike targeted their location, adding, we are still trying to reach them. He accused the Israeli military of deliberately targeting captives with foreign citizenship. Quote, our assessment is that the occupation army is deliberately trying to eliminate the pressure of the dual national hostage file in order to continue its war of extermination against our people. Now, of course, Ben Shapiro and all the other people who claim to care about hostages will never talk about that.
Right. Even the families of the hostages that are still being held in Gaza are furious with
Right.
Netanyahu. They are completely, because they know he at minimum doesn't care about them, but it's quite likely, like this just said, that he's trying to get rid of them because it creates pressure on him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disgusting. And obviously, I mean, there's even a story at the Times of Israel. Hostage's mother says the prime minister told me Israel knows where the captives are, is keeping distance. These are people who may not even like Palestinians, may not even see them as human beings, but they happen to care about their relatives. But that's one of the things that I hope that people can be reached who aren't already reached. Like, if they can just realize they've been brainwashed into buying the lie that Israel cares about Jewish safety and Jewish lives, and it's the fact that it's a colonial genocidal project. That's what it is. It's not about anyone's safety or liberation.
Yeah, and we know Israel doesn't care about Israeli lives. The Israeli government doesn't, because we saw what happened on October 7th. And even Yoav Gallant has now admitted that the Hannibal Directive was used. We know that the IDF killed hundreds of Israelis on October 7th. They do not care about Israelis. So the fact that there are Israeli hostages is meaningless to at least the ruling elite of Israel. And it is really just something that's annoying. It was useful for them to begin their genocide, to begin their ethnic cleansing, but now it's just annoying to them.
Right. Well, yeah. Can you tell people more about, because you actually made a video about this, right? About the Hannibal Directive. Or you mentioned the Hannibal Directives in your video. So what do people need to know about this in case people think it's a conspiracy theory, which so many people do?
I know. People still think it's a conspiracy theory. It has been proven and well documented again and again. Yoav Gallant is probably the highest ranking member of the Israeli government. He's former what we would call defense secretary of the Israeli government, was on October 7th. And he has said they used the Hannibal Directive on October 7th, which most people, I think a lot of people now know, is the directive the Israeli military, the Israeli government has, that says if someone is taken hostage, you can kill the hostage takers, and kill basically everyone around. And if you look simply at any bit of evidence from October 7th, take the literally hundreds of blown up cars. These cars were blown up with heavy explosives. They were blown up from above. These were blown up cars by the IDF. And that is probably where the biggest number of those killed happened, was the blowing up of all of these cars, mainly at the Nova Music Festival, but other places as well. And so you just look at that wall of cars, which most of them, the Israeli government has said, have now been shredded and buried in an undisclosed location, because that's what you do when you have evidence of a crime scene. You shred it and bury everything. But that's one example. Another example is the amount of shells and bombs that were dropped. Hundreds, I can't remember if it's actually thousands of 2-ton bombs, or 1-ton, 2-ton bombs were dropped. Tens of thousands of shells were fired this is all by the IDF on that day. You've got the admissions of the Israeli tank drivers on television, because this was in a report where they were proud of what they had done, talking about shelling houses, civilian structures in Kibbutz Be'eri and other places. And the tank gunner that I'm talking about in this interview says, I was told to fire on the house, and I said, aren't there Israeli civilians in there? And the commander said, it doesn't matter, fire. And I decided not to fire with the tank. I just fired with my machine gun because there were civilians in there. So she didn't fire her tank round, but she just used her machine gun to kill innocent Israelis. These admissions are all out there, and they're pretty readily covered in the Israeli media. They're just completely covered up in the American media.
Yeah, I mean, that's what is so interesting. That people, you don't even have to look at like Haaretz, which is a more progressive Israeli newspaper.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right, somewhat right. I mean, they have Gideon Levy, but and Amir Haas, but they're ideologically quite broad. So you also have total right wingers in there. But you just have to read mainstream Israeli media, because they cover things in a way that you'd be like totally driven out of the media here for saying.
Yeah, and so the fact once you know about the Hannibal Directive and you know that it's real and you know that it killed hundreds of Israelis, the fact that our media runs around saying 1,200 Israelis killed by Hamas every day to this day is completely wrong, completely a lie. We may probably never know the exact number, but some hundreds was by Hamas probably, and many, many hundreds were by the IDF. And so it's a completely false number. And yet they still run around our media. You can look up, they've said in the past month, they'll say 1,200 killed by Israelis killed by Hamas. It's just, again, it's all part of this story we're telling about what somehow allows genocide, which, by the way, if everything Israel ever said about October 7th were true, you still can't commit genocide. You still can't obliterate entire people. You still can't bomb hospitals and schools and journalists and target journalists and just murder children and create death and famine. You can't do any of that, even if all of their propaganda were true.
Right, exactly. I know it's like we have a double course to lead, right? Which is that we have to be pushing back on certain things. I mean, no, the truth is we have to like say the truth and be principled and ethical. But it's like they lob so much misinformation and disinformation, and it happens to be that so much of the atrocity propaganda is precisely that. It's atrocity propaganda. But also we have to remember that even if all of that were true,
yeah,
it's not legal what they're doing. It's not justifiable. But the reason that they say these things is because they know things that are like give you a visceral feeling of disgust. Then like it bypasses the brain and you have a visceral feeling that it's okay and that you're not really dealing with normal human beings. I mean, I remember someone saying to me, someone who's like a liberal Zionist was like, well, there's violence and there's violence, meaning like, and of course, the things that she was claiming that were real that she had been sent wound up not even being real. But that's why they do it. Someone like a certain beheading, the rapes. And what always happens, of course, is that to the extent that is true, and I think it is true, unfortunately, that, people are more repulsed by someone, let's say, like killing, like sawing off someone's head with a knife, right? That is more repulsive in some ways than dropping a bomb. It isn't, but it is. Do you know what I mean? Like there's nothing, there's no moral difference. It's just, it's more like bloody, right? Or
it creates an image in our head that makes us more repulsed. And,
exactly.
And when Israel's been saying, oh, all these babies are beheaded, which we now know is completely false. But Israel is literally beheading babies almost every single day with bombs, but that's acceptable.
Right, that's acceptable, yeah. Seeing them shredded, seeing them in their bodies in bags, right? Like literally people picking up their bodies in bags. But what's interesting is also, to the extent that there's violence that's more like cleaner violence, right? All that does is that basically gives the advantage to the more powerful. Like, obviously, the powerful country has the powerful army, has all the money. They can use drones. They can use bombs. They don't have to do things like hand to hand.
Yeah. Another example of this, to take it out of just Israel, is Brown University Cost of War says that the U.S. has killed 4.5 to 6 million people with the global war on terror over just 20 years. 1 million in Iraq, several 100,000 in Syria, hundreds of thousands in Afghanistan, etc. You add it up, you get 4.5 to 6 million people. But that doesn't hold any weight with your average American or with a lot of people around the world because A, we're not seeing almost any of it. And B, it's not like you say. It's not like a guy grabbing a knife and stabbing someone in the neck. Instead, it's a grainy black and white drone video where they decided that someone walking in a group might be a good target. Like, it just is not, it doesn't I mean, we have animal brains at some level, and those type of things, we do not have compassion for a grainy black and white video that's has a bomb dropped on it 10,000 miles away, 5,000 miles away. So it just, it's sad that we haven't evolved.
Right. Yeah, it really is. And it's interesting that people actually will. This is one of my favorite things is the resurgence of blood libel, apparently, right? And as people know, blood libel is like the lie that Jews would basically kill Christian babies to drink their blood, right? So now, anytime you say
I did it, I wasn't a fan. I didn't.
You're right.
It just-
Well, but as two
yeah.
Jews, we can admit, since
Yeah.
no one's watching us, except
Yeah.
people,
But
we can admit
it's
that
just
it
I
happens
think
sometimes.
I think
So,
it's better with age or something.
yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I don't like the taste of it. Too many.
No.
It's way too caloric. But anything that is unflattering or critical of Israelis or Zionists is now blood libel. So if you say something about the Hannibal Doctrine, you say something about the way that Israel has raped Palestinians, you are actually engaging in blood libel, modern day blood libel, and you're the anti-Semite. It's like amazing how the crimes aren't the crimes that are committed. The crimes are you describing the crimes. Like the bad guys are the people who talk about the Hannibal Directive, the rape, the kidnappings, the beheadings. They're not the people who do them.
It's an inverted moral universe,
Yeah,
and it kind of is the last grasp of a degraded and waning empire, and Israel is part of that empire, and Israel is a collapsing apartheid state that can't possibly sustain, and their economy would collapse if the U.S. weren't propping it up. Their war efforts would collapse if the U.S. weren't propping it up. So all these things are fading. The world is de-dollarizing. The U.S. is losing its hegemony. And so you have kind of nothing left except to say up is down, black is white, and try and tell people that they shouldn't care for the victims of this pathetic shit show empire.
Right. Lee, I want to ask you about your, personal journey. I did that with the last guest, and it's not gonna. People should, I don't want to set you up for failure because you didn't go to jail for refusing to serve in the Israeli army. But you have an interesting trajectory. Can you tell people about it? Like where you come from? I mean, geographically, but also you are Jewish on one side and also pretty not Jewish on the other.
Yeah, since we're talking about Israel, I'll start off with that part. Yeah, definitely raised Jewish, had the good old bar mitzvah, drank the Christian blood.
Which is what you guys think is Manischewitz. We call it Manischewitz.
Yeah. And then I've been to Israel twice, but one, I was pretty early teens, and I believed everything he told in synagogue, that it's just this wonderful country for Jews. And then by the time I went later in my early 20s, I already saw through a lot of it. I didn't quite understand just how horrific Israel was. I just knew it was wrong. But anyway, in terms of the broader picture, on my mother's side, Jewish, and then on my father's side, he's not religious, but his family goes back to George Washington and John Marshall and all these early Americans, if you, of course, don't count the Native Americans.
Right.
And so, descended from those folks. Some of them horrific slave traders. Others, like Roger Williams, who found Rhode Island, was rejected from Massachusetts. He got kicked out of Massachusetts colony because he wanted Native Americans to be appropriately paid for their land. And he wanted religious freedom. So Providence, Rhode Island was one of the first places that Jews were allowed. So there's some good guys in the past too. But yeah,
wait 1 second, Lee. Sorry, can you refresh your browser or close other? Every now and then you're glitchy. So wondering if you could, just because this is good content, wondering if you could refresh your browser or close other programs. And then, in fact, while we do that, Brad, can you go full screen? Can you go full screen on Lee? We're going to do a reverse. Now remove me and go full screen on Lee.
Hey.
Alone at last, Lee.
Did that help at all? What I did?
I think we'll find out. Yeah. I mean, so far, so good.
I didn't, weirdly, it's not showing me that I'm glitching. So.
Really?
No.
That's weird. Interesting. But what were you saying?
Oh yeah, I to give a little more of my history. I basically just wanted to do comedy, and I just.
Oh wait, but you're talking about Rhode Island. Rhode Island.
Yeah, no, I was done with that part.
Oh well, it's just.
Oh wait, Did I cut out?
Yeah, you were pretty glitchy then. It was, yeah.
Oh, okay. He founded Providence, Rhode Island after he was kicked out of Massachusetts for basically thinking Native Americans should be treated better, should be paid for their land. And he believed in religious freedom. So Providence, Rhode Island was one of the earlier places in the U.S. that had that allowed Jews. So anyway, there's some good guys mixed with the bad guys.
Oh, wow. So do you get like royalties from Providence, Rhode Island, whenever it's like in a movie or something?
Yes, that
Okay.
and the Jews send me money.
But isn't one side like not Jewish and one side is Jewish?
Oh, sorry, I must have glitched out for that too. Yeah, my mother's Jew, my mother's Russian, German Jewish, and my father is just like old American.
Okay, right. But I thought there was some like sketchy Southern stuff on that side.
Well, I'm named after Robert E. Lee. Is that what you mean?
Oh yeah. So your Jewish mother let you be named after a Confederate?
Sometimes my mother is not the brightest. No, my mother's wonderful, but they, we're descended from. So George Washington was like third cousins with Robert E. Lee, so we're descended from both of them, and
it's a good name.
I think more so Washington, but anyway, and also they lived outside the Lee Circle in Richmond, Virginia, one of the most racist monuments in our country's history. But and so they just saw the name Lee and they just named me Lee. But yeah.
All right, interesting. Are you ever like, why? Do you ever ask them why?
Oh, they've told me multiple times now. I think since George Floyd and the monuments takedowns and stuff, they've told me multiple times they feel bad about it.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
But anyway, yeah, in terms of the story outside of that is just wanting to do comedy. And, immediately after college, moved up to New York and was doing it every night of the week, which was when I met you. And it was nice because most of the time I was doing it in regular comedy clubs, but you and I were on these, left-wing political shows that allowed me to do kind of the more political stuff where your average audience would not be as into it. And, so that was really, really, I think, important. And then ultimately I got the TV show Redacted Tonight. I wrote and starred in that for 8 years, and it's been gone. It was shut down by U.S. sanctions 3 years ago. And now I just created my new version. And that ended
the war, and that ended that gave, peace to Ukraine. Right?
Putin was so crushed by the ending of my comedy show that he left Ukraine. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off though. So they shut that down.
Yeah, and I had projects and things between then and now, but just recently I recreated my version of it, completely independent, and as it was on Redacted Tonight, I'm writing all of it, so it's the same style, voice, everything, and it's called Unredacted Tonight, and it's on my YouTube channel, or just go to leecamp.com/unredacted. And we're 2 months in, and it's obviously a much bigger effort when I'm doing it on my own. But yeah, people seem to really like it. So.
Well, that's great. That you're able to do it on your own.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think people want an actual left-wing daily show, so hopefully I can provide that for them.
Yeah. Well, someone just wrote my two favorite hosts who torment me with facts and also keep me laughing and sane are together here. Thank you. That's so nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. And we paid them exactly $5.99 to say that. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for that comment. Also, another friend of the show. Of course, we love Mary. I'm like, I love you so much. I'm not going to get your name right now. Martha Allen. You must know Martha Allen.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Martha.
Right. Thanks, Hanley. Love and appreciation also from David, Paul, and Jonathan Zeitlin. Well, hello to all of you. Thank you so much.
Dave's there. Yeah. Hey, Dave.
And thank you to all of you who are becoming members. I also wanted to show you guys something. I mentioned this earlier. We need more shirts like us. Thanks. Mentioned this earlier, and you guys remember I joked that you're going to think I have a crush on this Elon guy, but I was right. It was this Elon guy, this pathological liar who has his photo taken with Trump. He's so dumb. Okay, so someone tweets out a video. So Brad, scroll down a little bit, please. Okay, you see it's freedomnews.tv, right? They've tweeted out a video of this speech in which Mahmoud Khalil's lawyer, Sheza, who I interviewed Monday, so you can watch her. We're going to release a clip of that soon. Great interview. She says that she's going to read a letter from Mahmoud Khalil's wife, right? And she reads that letter, and in that letter it says, "My husband was kidnapped." So scroll up to show genius, Eyal. The woman is not Mahmoud Khalil's wife. She's just some random Western-looking woman that they chose to read his wife's statement to make Mahmoud look more American. These people are so beyond pathetic. How dumb are you? First of all, okay, keep that up there for a second, Brad. I'm sorry. Like, the layers are so dumb. He's so stupid, but also, like, he honestly thinks they hired someone to, like, play his wife. He doesn't even realize that it's his lawyers, like his lawyer reading it.
Yeah, and I don't know if people realize this, but not everybody is great at speaking to 1,000 people with 100 cameras in your face.
Right,
and so
too, right.
the idea that his wife might hand the note over to the lawyer to read is totally normal.
Yeah, of course, totally normal. But also, like, if he had just watched it, he would have seen her saying, "I'm reading this letter on behalf of Mahmoud Khalil's wife." But, like, according to him, these are the thing with Eyal is, like, so many people like him, you really don't know. And I mentioned this, we mentioned this with Norman Finkelstein a few weeks ago. You really don't know if it's idiocy or dishonesty or both. Like, he could be so dumb that he Googled his wife, realized that wasn't her, and thought it was just some random person pretending to be her.
Right. That is a fun game to play. Are these people really that stupid, or do they just know that that gets clicks?
Right. And we went through some of his other lies earlier. We are going to leave people with some good news when Brad gets back. We do have some good news to update people about. But before we do that, Lee, anything else you want to make sure people know about in terms of what you're working on, things that you think are important right now politically, things that you're going to cover on upcoming episodes?
That's a big question.
Well, I have another question. I'll return to you because unless you... I do have another question for you, or do you want me to pass you the mic, or?
Whatever you want to do. I was going to say the thing I've been talking about recently is how at the heart of that other than covering Israel's genocide, I'd say 70% of everything I do. But other than that, the heart, which people are not talking about, of why Trump did this insane tariff war, this trade war. Almost no one is talking about it, but there has been a speech by his top economic advisor and a paper written by him where he kind of admits it, even while putting plenty of pro-Trump propaganda in, but that it's based on the fact that the U.S. is losing dollar hegemony. The U.S. is losing we're soon to not be the global reserve currency. Many nations are backing out of using US dollars as the reserve currency. What does that do? Well, that means the US dollar loses a lot of its power. They can't just print as much money as they want. We can't have trillion-dollar military budgets. And so Trump thought, and who knows where it will go from here, that he, as like a Hail Mary to save us from de-dollarization, save the empire, he's going to basically force all the countries around the world to just pay us. And that's going to, and then he can rewrite the global economic system. And it's kind of amazing that no one's, I mean, mainstream media, of course, is doing the corporate bidding, but barely anyone's talking about what is actually at the heart of this, like, insane Hail Mary to try and save U.S. hegemony.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's an important take, and something that I think people are not really necessarily looking at. Yeah.
It's just like a deeper level of it that I feel like should be talked about. So that's I try to get into those deeper levels in Unredacted tonight, even while putting a lot of comedy in there.
Right. Yeah. It's one of the things that I think is great about your work. And how do you think? I mean, this is kind of a corny question, but do you think that comedy does work to make change or reaches people in a way that things that aren't comedic doesn't?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does in two ways. One is when it's done effectively, it can free our minds from the subservience that we're kind of indoctrinated into in the ruling elite, in these incredibly powerful entities like Israel, and you kind of have to start there. Like, you have to be willing to mock these idiots, these awful human beings, to even begin to break out of kind of the misinformation and propaganda we're fed. But I'd say the bigger probably influence it can have is just getting people to listen about important issues that wouldn't really listen otherwise. Like, we're in such a fractured, are you team red or team blue or what have you? And people decide in the first 12 seconds whether you're on their team. And if you're not, then we're going to turn it off. And so I feel comedy, at least some of the time, not 100%, but can short circuit that. And people will listen a little longer and give it a chance, and maybe learn something. So,
wow, that's inspiring. Well, Lee, before you leave, I just want you to bear witness to two things that I want to talk about. One is I said we have some good news, but I want to start with some bad news first. So, Brad, I just texted you a tweet. Please show the tweet, not my response to it, just the tweet of the very esteemed organization that starts with a B. So, Lee, I hope you're sitting down. So, Betar, hold on one second. Betar, the doxing, right-wing Zionist, disgusting organization that one of whose leaders was that guy Ross Gluck, who's a revenge porn perp. We talked about him with Brace Belden. They do a lot of great work. They, for instance, went up to Norman Finkelstein and handed him a beeper, which was, of course, a reference to the
terrorist attack in Lebanon.
Yeah, right. Which was literally so terrorist, by the way, that it was so terrorist that Leon Panetta, the former head of the CIA, said it was terrorist. That's how bad it was. But anyway, so these are great people, Betar Worldwide. So they have some Jews that they believe will not be allowed into Israel, and of course should not be allowed into Israel. And they tweeted this out. Let's take a look at their tweet. Among the Jews we believe will not be allowed into Israel again are Peter Beinart, Aaron J. Mate, Norm Finkelstein, and many others. We confirm there are names of younger JBP activists we've asked to name to our lists, as Israeli intelligence is interested in questioning them regarding terror links. Today at the Jabotinsky Institute, we met 4 government leaders. From Israel, we will continue to add to the list. Jews not allowed in Israel. Now, I includes a lot of
Medea's on there.
Medea Benjamin, Naomi Klein, Peter Beinart. It was very painful for me. Simone Zimmerman, Wallace Shawn. I like to take some credit for the Wallace Shawn because he said some really provocative stuff during our interviews. Now, it's very painful for me because at the bottom middle, under Wallace Shawn, that's someone named Jeff Halper. So they took a Halper, not Katie Halper. They didn't think I was big enough. And
there's even an empty spot for you, Katie.
There's an empty spot waiting right there for me, right? So I was already upset about that. And now I'm very competitive, of course, because if you scroll up, Aaron Mate is my co-host. So how am I supposed to look him in the eye, knowing that he made the list and I didn't? Then I was like, wait, Tony Jutt. Okay, Tony Jutt, that's interesting. Tony Jutt is a absolutely brilliant historian. And I think they're right, Lee, when they say he won't be let into Israel because he died in 2010.
Oh, well,
Okay.
it's unlikely.
Yeah, it's unlikely, right? So I tweet that out. Then I realized that someone else is on that list. If you scroll down, that's Adrian Rich on the second from the bottom row, all the way on the right. Their graphics are so bad, though, you can't even read the name, and I didn't even recognize her. They really need to get better graphics. So I think that like Betar is already doing wonderful work. They're killing off bad Jews.
And someone in your chat has a good point. Aaron's father Gabber isn't on there. I feel like.
I mean, that's like, I mean, if it's awkward for me, if I have issues now, imagine how how inadequate you're going to feel if you're the father.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a son-father rivalry there for whether they can get
If
to
there
Israel.
wasn't before, there sure is now, thanks to Betar. But I did say I would end with good news, and people probably remember that, was it last week we covered this, that there had been a pro-Palestine protest, and as is their wont, an Israel supporter expressed his support of Israel and hatred for Palestinians in the most disgusting way, and did that by throwing bleach, objects, and feces from a balcony onto the protesters. And luckily for the protesters, it landed on a car, not on a person. But it was like, scary enough and thrown from high up enough that it shattered the windshield. We were all saying how, of course, because the person was pro-Israel, no one went up. Like the cops were down there and they saw who the guy was. He went out. His face wasn't covered. He came out first with an Israeli sign, and then he came out to drop the stuff, including feces, right? And
So
the police.
it's nice of him to bleach the feces and clean it up.
That's true. I mean, hopefully, what he should have done is the feces and then the bleach, so people could have cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was actually helping. He was helping people clean up after him, kind of. And we all commented on how, if it had been someone on the other side, it would have been not, because did you hear about this story?
I didn't, but you're right. If it were the reverse, oh my God,
Can you imagine?
that person would be in
Nonstop coverage.
prison for
They'd be
terrorism.
deported. Yeah, they would have been deported even if they had been born here. Like they would have been deported somewhere. They would have sent them to El Salvador, or whatever. But because it's the other way, no one cares. They didn't even go up to the apartment to arrest him. Now, I think it's probably because of the Katie Halper show that we have this exciting announcement. This is via Talia Jane's Twitter. Lease terminated with 6-day vacate for Summit resident Daniel Cohen after feces, bleach, and trash were thrown from his balcony by an individual believed by building management, per notice, and residents to be Cohen's brother, who is wanted by NYPD for reckless endangerment. So, guys,
hey, there we go.
Did it. Yeah,
Nice.
we did it. And let's show his face. There it is. It couldn't have happened to a nicer.
This is good of you to dox him when you were talking about Canary earlier. You get to dox him back.
Well, yeah, we do. And actually, you know what? This really is because of the Katie Halper show. Because hold on, I just realized this. It's not just that we covered it, which we did. It's not just that we covered it. Oh my God, I didn't even give us enough credit. Hold on. Wait. Oh, wait, there was an AB with the thumbnail. One of the thumbnails that we made said, identify this man, and it showed that man's face on it. So you can thank the Katie Halper show.
There you go.
For helping identify him. Yeah.
Doing the catching the feces throwers.
Yes, exactly. Catching the feces throwers.
That's your new motto.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Brad, look at that. Jews not allowed in Israel. Brad added me and Lee. That is
wow.
Wonderful.
How quickly we were just banned from Israel.
I know, seriously, yeah. But I do like that they had to include 2 people who had died. I think they should add other people on there. Like, make sure that they don't let in Einstein.
Yeah.
Because Einstein was very critical of Israel.
He was good.
Yeah. Spinoza.
Yeah, I'm sure that all the people on that list are just dying to go on holiday in Israel.
Yeah, I know. They're really upset. Yeah. You didn't even mean to make a pun, but you did.
Yeah.
At least 2 of them are. Well, anyway, Lee, thank you so much for joining. Any final words you want to share?
Just keep fighting, everybody, for a better world. And if you want to check out Unredacted tonight, just give it 1 episode and see what you think.
Great. It's really good.
It's at leecamp.com/unredacted. We'll take you, or unredactedtonight.com. That's the website there. We'll take you straight to the YouTube page so you can just watch the whole playlist. I also have like 3 podcasts and everything, live streams every week. All of it's at linktree.com/leecamp.
Great. Well, thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Katie. Keep up the fight.
Night. Thanks. Yeah. Look, we can one poop thrower at a time. We'll arrest them all, and then we'll get to genocidal war criminals like Netanyahu.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh,
it looks like my dad. It looks like you banned my dad. My dad looks a lot like Einstein. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Have a good night.
Later.
All righty. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Brad, is there anything else that we need to do or say? I think that's it, right? Are you? Oh, a thumbs up. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much to all the people who came on the show. We may have some Patreon this week, but I think we should just. What do you think? Should we, Brad? Will you join the show for a second? He loves when I do that. How's it going, Brad?
Hey.
What do you think? Should we just make it all free this week?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have some great Patreon content coming up from what we did earlier this week and other stuff that, yeah, makes sense.
I think so, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what we'll do? We have more Whitney Webb to release.
Exactly.
There you go.
We
had so much Whitney Webb.
Yeah.
That I stand by this decision. We are releasing it in pieces because, first of all, it takes you so long to digest it because there's so many moving parts. So
it really is like a trilogy.
It really is, yeah. So we'll release more Whitney Webb, and that's amazing footage. And she's such a great resource. And we're doing that because everything on the show was so important. And also, like, the last thing I want to do is paywall some, like, Lee Camp, who has been screwed over by.
He needs more eyes, and he deserves.
We are not going to be part of the censorship.
I don't know. He could have gone further into it, and I'm sure a lot of people know, but back with like the whole Russiagate thing.
Oh yeah.
Like that was him and like Abby Martin, they suffered terribly because of that BS.
Yeah. Even though they both happen to be critical of Russia. Yeah.
Right. Like when they banned RT, but they banned RT America, which is run by Americans based in Washington, D.C. But that was
right. Yeah. And because I feel like we should show this. This one other thing. Can we show the image that we were texted, Brad, by the very talented Andrew Calloway, who made this very good thumbnail? He texted it to us. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. Just give me one moment.
Because I want you guys, this is news you can trust. So, and I hope everyone liked this stream. It's a really great way to support the show. And guys, please, I mean, I'm kind of a zombie right now because you know what I did yesterday? Sunday night, I went to a family Seder. Brad can attest because Brad came. We still don't know if Brad's Jewish, but we don't care. Great Seder. Not only was this Seder, it had a little salsa dancing part to it, right?
Yep.
Right.
And I didn't know that was part of the Seder.
Right. It's not usually. But at ours it was. So my cousin was teaching her younger sister's kids how to salsa. So that's already a lot, really draining, right? You got the whole Seder. Obviously, we made it like a pre-Palestine Seder. You got the whole Seder. You got some salsa dancing. Then you have Monday morning, which is the live show I do every Monday morning from 10 to 11. Then what do? I agree, perhaps unwisely, just kidding. I agree to host a stream for Jewish Voice for Peace for their Liberation Seder, which means that after my Monday morning, which is from 10 to 11, after that stream, I interview Brant Rosen, who's amazing, an amazing anti-Zionist rabbi. Great interview. Interview him. Do a little pre-tape. Go downtown to a studio. Do another pre-tape with Joe Howley, the great Columbia professor, who says great stuff, including about Mohsen. Then I interview Sheza, one of Mahmoud Khalil's lawyers. And then I also interview Reham Barghouti, one of the founders of BDS. And then between 5 and 8, I host and chair this stream with the wonderful Najla Saeed. So
which was great.
It was great, yeah. But make sure you check that stream out, and we'll be releasing clips.
But boy, that is.
But so and then I woke up today and I had planned to have on Alex Kane and Lee Camp, and I'm so glad I did. But then I was introduced to the wonderful Aharon, and that was amazing. I mean, I'm so glad that we could actually speak to someone who knows Mohsen.
Thank goodness he's a night owl.
Yes, right, because he's like, in the Middle East right now.
It's like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
But
So,
wow, that's
yeah.
a
So,
lot.
and we're still going to give you Patreon. Can you believe it? And here, as promised, is that image. Identify this attacker. Now, is it a coincidence? I say no. That we provided you with a picture of the attacker we showed you him throwing the feces. We showed you him holding the Israeli flag, and we showed you a close-up of his face. So you had all the options and all the different contexts.
I don't think this was the Katie Halper bump this person was looking for.
No, it was not. It was the Katie Halper low.
But
Katie
it was
Halper
it was the one that he deserved.
It really was.
Yeah.
And as oh, you know what, Brad? Okay, so my great friend had a baby, Kate Levin, and adorable baby. And you know what you reminded me of? I think she made was it you or
a baby?
No. What? Yeah, you remind me. No. Were you the one who came up with the idea that we have to have a Katie Halper show bump shirt that's a pregnancy shirt?
Yeah. That was
so we have to make that because I didn't get Kate a good present yet.
Oh, that would be
so
great.
Let's make that. Yeah. In fact, and we should feature that. Yeah.
Like
and by the way, we do have merch, Katie Halper Show merch. We got to add some Bodie stuff to it.
Yeah.
We need Bodie, Bucky. We need merch that features Bodie, Bucky, Bodie, Tony, Oliver, and Bucky. Bodie, Tony, and Oliver are my parents' dogs, and then there's Bucky. And in fact, next week we will show you a really cute picture of my dad in a dog crate with his dog because he had a torn ligament.
The dog.
Yeah. So he had to have surgery, and he has to stay in a crate. And there's a really cute video of that. And then should I show you Bucky just once, like as a final thing?
Was he around?
Yeah, I'll grab him.
Okay, sure.
And you can. Oh, and we got one more super chat. Tyler Trustick, love seeing my favorites collaborating. Thank you, Katie and Lee, for what you do for us. Thank you. So don't go anywhere, guys. I just want to bring everyone, but I just feel like I need to show Bucky. Yeah. So can you go full screen, Brad? And
Sure.
You can read some comments, whatever. Sure. I just want to bring Bucky.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Congrats on being banned. It's a badge of honor. Well, yeah, oftentimes that is the case. Great show as always. Thank you.
Look at this face.
Oh, geez.
Oh my God. And tomorrow we'll post some of the photos of Brad with Bucky because Brad has dog sat Bucky, and Bucky
his face. He's so funny.
Brad has dog sat him, and why does he look like so funny and cute right now? What is it about his face right now? What is it?
It just makes me laugh.
I know, but it's something in particular. I don't know what it is. Anyway, he's so freaking cute, and
it's like very distinguished looking. Yeah. It was just very
Also, I think because usually it's a little loose his tie, but the way I'm holding him, it's like it's nice. You see what it's supposed to be like, but he's also very calm. He's not squirming.
Yeah,
he looks very distinguished.
Yeah,
and he also looks like he's looking up or like praying or something. Or God. But anyway, it is so cute because Bucky loves Brad.
Yeah, well, I love him too.
Yeah, and whenever he comes, oh my God, he's licking me, Brad.
Oh my gosh,
you don't know that's a huge deal.
He doesn't really do that.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we brought him to our friend Andrew's party, and he was a big hit there too.
I mean, I don't know if people who've watched over the past few weeks. I remember the first time you brought him on, he was just like. He's definitely chilled out and seems very content.
Yeah, he and we are color coordinated. Someone said. He's cute. Oops. Anyway, so I want to thank you. He looks mellow, but he's a combination, right, Brad?
He's got two speeds, and pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when he sees Brad, he gets so excited.
And yes, those are his teeth. Those are his bottom teeth.
Yeah, you don't really ever see the front one, the top ones.
I don't even know if he has top teeth.
He does. Bucky.
Yeah. No, he's great.
He's so freaking cute. Anyway, well, thank you guys so
Here,
much.
bring your mic. Bring your
Oh,
mic
yeah.
back.
Oh, and someone wrote that they got some merch from someone wrote. Oh, and then you guys don't even know. There are times that Bucky's here. He's just on my lap and you can't see him. It is so cute.
Well, yeah, but no, we will be refreshing, updating the merch for sure.
Yeah. And definitely get that.
But did we go through all the super chats?
Yeah, we did, right? Let's see any new ones. Oh, thank you. Oh my god. Thank you for thank you. Is that what's HK though? Is that a different currency? Either way, I'm very grateful.
I think that might be Hong Kong.
Okay. Thanks for hosting and producing this show, Katie and Brad. You're all doing very important work. Thank you so much.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah. Without any further ado, I'm gonna Bucky 2028. It's true. Oh my god, it's a cute chubby cat. We will see you next week. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks everyone who came on the show. Thanks Brad. Thanks Phantomus. Thanks Andrew. And thanks Bucky. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Okay, I'm down.